NASCAR is on such a roll, y'all, that even when the race itself is borderline unwatchable, we get Ricky Stenhouse throwing a punch at Kyle Busch. This sport, y'all. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove All-Star Edition. We'll get to the punch, the race, the finish in a few moments, but first, this episode is sponsored by Thor's Lightning Adventure Gear. Based out of Denver, Colorado, they've got a full line of air compressors built to handle whatever you can throw at them. The Lightning Bolt air compressor series boasts 10.6 cubic feet per minute of performance, dual cylinders, and a 5-year warranty. They work great for filling up any kind of tire you can imagine. These come standard with a single tire hose kit, but can also be used with Thor Lightning's multi-tire hose kit, so you can add air and take away air from multiple tires at once. Choose from the Lightning Bolt Standard or the Lightning Bolt Total Control, which allows you to set a target pressure and walk away. The compressor will shut off on its own. The AirSpark portable battery box compressor packs power and performance in a small package. It also uses Total Control technology and is great for passenger tires, motorcycle tires, bicycle tires, and side-by-side tires. It has many different uses, and thanks to its small size, can be stored away easily in a glove box or backpack. Click the top link down in the description below to check out Thor's Lightning Adventure Gear, and be sure to use code GROOVE10 for 10% off your order. There is so much to cover tonight. All-Star Weekend returns to North Wilkesboro Speedway, newly repaved North Wilkesboro Speedway. We will talk about Joey Logano. It's a big night for Team Penske, a big night for Ford. Back-to-back wins for the Blue Ovals. They're on the comeback trail. We'll talk about Goodyear's experimental option tire, the good, the bad, the forgettable. But first, we have to talk about the fight. And this was an actual fight. Last week, Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick, that was I guess we can call that an altercation, right? Barely got physical. That wasn't a fight. Tonight, between Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch, that was a fight. First, let's unpack what went down on the racetrack. Lap one. Kyle Busch into the outside wall. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the middle of 3 wide. Did he leave Kyle Busch enough room? Debatable. It was tight for sure, but there was never really any contact between the 47 and the 8. Kyle Busch was mad. 1 lap later, Kyle Busch punts Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who ends up overcorrecting hard into the outside wall, destroys the 47. Ricky Stenhouse done for the day on lap 2. Clearly, retaliation from Kyle Busch. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. not happy in the moment, goes and parks in Kyle Busch's pit stall. The RCR pit crew there, what do we do? We're confused. See, North Wilkesboro Speedway is charming. That's another way of saying old. There is no infield tunnel to allow people to escape the inside of the track. So Ricky Stenhouse, after being checked and released from the infield care center, was stuck in the middle of the track until all 200 laps were complete. So he had all 200 laps pretty much to sit and stew and plan what he was going to say and do to Kyle Busch once he saw him. Did not waste much time. Race is over. Busch is out of his car, walking back to his hauler. Ricky Stenhouse in street clothes now is there to confront him. They talk, they jaw back and forth. A lot of reporters on social media have posted their POVs, so if you want to try and make out exactly what was said, be my guest. From what I can make out, Ricky Stenhouse effectively says, hey, I didn't touch you. Go back and look at the replay. You hit the wall yourself. While Kyle Busch shakes his head and says, no, I don't think so. Then Ricky Stenhouse starts swinging. So anyways, I started blasting. No, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., not, I don't think, in the same weight class as Kyle Busch. He goes on the offensive. They both end up on the ground, stumbling over tires. Security takes Stenhouse to the ground. Kyle Busch, meanwhile, ends up grappling with several Ricky Stenhouse Jr. crew members before the 8 team comes in and splits everyone up. Get off the hauler, get out of here, scram, you crazy kids. That's where it effectively ended. Ricky Stenhouse then told FS1, hey, Kyle Busch, probably just mad that he's not running so good anymore. Kyle Busch, I saw in one clip, yelled at Stenhouse, I don't give an F. I suck just as bad as you. Some self-awareness there from Kyle Busch. Anyway, the situation eventually was diffused. So what do I think? What to make of Stenhouse versus Kyle Busch? Is this who Kyle Busch has become? A future NASCAR Hall of Famer, no doubt, now beefing with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., retaliating on lap 2 of an exhibition race? Let's make one thing clear. Kyle Busch overreacted to what happened on the racetrack. Did Ricky Stenhouse squeeze him? Maybe a little. They're door to door at a track that's tough to pass in a car that's tough to pass. I get Kyle Busch being a little frustrated, but that doesn't justify blatantly taking the guy out the very next turn. Kyle Busch is cooked, y'all. This has been a terrible 2 weeks. Last weekend at Darlington, he crashes himself on lap 2 of the Truck Series race. That's not Kyle Busch. Then on Sunday, he runs 28th, has more Darlington stripes on the side of his car than I can count. Backs up that beautiful weekend with this. What is happening? What is wrong with Kyle Busch? Because this is not the future Hall of Famer. This is not the same driver who we once thought was arguably on NASCAR's Mount Rushmore. This is not the same guy. We have not seen that Kyle Busch since the middle of last year. Shoot, we really haven't seen that Kyle Busch since 2019 when he won his second Cup championship. He also spun Ty Gibbs later in this race tonight. We were just going to gloss over that. I have never been a Kyle Busch hater. I have always been in awe of his raw ability, his talent. He was once one of the most feared race car drivers in America. The last 2 weeks, he's looked like a joke. That's the sad truth. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had every right to be upset. I have no issue with him getting in Kyle Busch's face. I don't have an issue with him getting physical, especially since Stenhouse is at a size disadvantage. These guys in the garage haven't had a single off weekend this year. They're overworked. They're exhausted. I have no issue with how the 47 team handled tonight, honestly. Kyle Busch self-policed on the racetrack. Stenhouse and the 47 team self-policed off the racetrack. That's the way this sport is. NASCAR rarely steps in, rarely gets involved. These two guys, these two teams settled things right here between themselves at North Wilkesboro Speedway. I hope it doesn't carry over week to week. What happens at North Wilkesboro stays at North Wilkesboro, and we will remember what happened at North Wilkesboro for a long, long time. Now, let's actually talk about the race. Congratulations to Joey Logano. First NASCAR Cup Series win in over a year. Yes, it's an exhibition, doesn't pay points, but it does pay $1 million. That's gotta feel pretty good. And if you're Ford, a Ford fan, this has to feel pretty good. 5 Fords finished inside the top 10 last weekend at Darlington. Tonight, Ford goes back-to-back wins, and you had another 3 Fords, I think, in the top 5. Intermediate type track last week, short track this week. What has Ford figured out? 3 weeks ago, they looked almost lost. RFK was showing some glimpses here and there, but other than that, it was rough sailing. As a fan, I'm excited. This gives me something different to talk about every single week. I respect the greatness of Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, but it's fun to see RFK, now Penske, back in the fold. My Championship 4 picks are less cut and dry now, which is awesome. Gives me a reason to tune in every week. It's more intriguing. Joey Logano dominated tonight, led 199 out of 200 laps, basically wire to wire after winning the pole. A very impressive performance. Now the question is, will this newfound speed carry over to next week? The Coke 600, where Team Penske is the defending race winner with Ryan Blaney. If you're a Ford fan, there's reason to be excited. Shoot, Justin Haley almost raced his way into the All-Star race tonight. That's how back Ford appears to be. We'll talk tires in a moment, but first I wanted to look at the top finishers. I know this is an all-star race, it's winner take all effectively, but I still want to see where some notable names finished. I mentioned 3 Fords finished inside the top 5. Denny Hamlin in a Toyota was the only other car in Joey Logano's zip code by the end, but he didn't have quite enough to track down the 2-time Cup champion. Chris Buescher, second at Kansas, should have at least finished second, probably at Darlington, third this time around. And how about Kyle Larson? I know it's getting repetitive, but dude has been incredible this month. Qualified 5th in the Indianapolis 500 just a few hours before green flag tonight. Hadn't driven the car a single lap at North Wilkesboro all weekend long. Gets behind the wheel, starts dead last, drives his way to a top 5 finish. He was a rocket ship on that final restart, just used up the good in his tires a little too quickly. Top 5 for Ryan Blaney. That's 2 Penske Fords in the top 5. How about Bubba Wallace? Raced his way in through the open, comes home with a 6th place run. I know it doesn't pay much, no points, but that's impressive. Hopefully that's a morale boost for that team. Great drive. Was second last year, so North Wilkesboro, whether it's old or new surface, he seems to resonate. In a similar note, I'll mention Noah Gragson for the second straight year won the fan vote. Finishes 11th, not too bad. I will say I was a little surprised this year. I know he won it last year, but I thought with Alex Bowman being in the Open, a Hendrick driver, I thought with Carson Hocevar's impressive campaign, I thought the fan vote was up for grabs. Well, lo and behold, Noah Gragson, his army showed out. But there you go. There's a look at your top finishers tonight. The big story this weekend was the tires. Goodyear brought a softer, faster tire that was supposed to wear out more quickly. The option tire for teams to use this weekend. In practice earlier this weekend, teams reported blistering on those tires after 40 laps. Looked similar to what happened at Bristol a few weeks back. But different conditions tonight. Night race, cooler temperatures, teams adjusting on their cars. Yeah, these option tires really were no different than the harder prime tires. They just didn't wear out. Over the course of a 90-lap run in the first half of tonight's race, there were 5 drivers on those option tires. The prime tires never kicked in, never became faster. Like the option tires are supposed to fire off quicker. Sure enough, they did. Those 5 drivers drove out to a lead. But over the course of a run, we thought maybe 30, 40, 50 laps, the prime tires would kick in and then, lap times would switch and you'd see those top 5 coming back to the field. That part never happened. 90 laps into a run, and by the end of it, the prime and option tires were still running roughly the same lap time. So the tire wear, the fall off, the comers and goers we were promised, that never happened. That was a huge disappointment. I'm not going to call the option tire a failure. You heard Denny Hamlin's comments earlier in the weekend. He called it a great tire. Fantastic even. This is still the direction that Goodyear and NASCAR need to continue to go, but tonight is just proof that you need to go even harder. No, not actually harder. I just mean you need to be more aggressive, Make the tire softer. I want them driving freaking pillows out there. These teams are so smart and the conditions are always changing. Goodyear can afford to be even more aggressive than they were this weekend. And I hope that they are because, shoot, NASCAR short track racing right now is on life support. You can't really blame the track tonight. I mean, yes, it's a repave, it's smooth, but they did a pretty good job of creating multiple grooves with that progressive banking. We saw 2, 3, 4 different lines, things changing throughout the run, lots of side-by-side tonight. I thought tonight's race objectively had more action than last year's All-Star race on the worn-out surface. So, as repaves traditionally go, I think North Wilkesboro was especially competitive. Goodyear can go even more aggressive, and that's what I hope they do. If nothing else, I hope they bring the option tire to Martinsville, Phoenix late in the year during the playoffs. The option tire proved it can hold up, too good even. Bring it to the playoffs. I'd like to see what it can do at those tracks. I can't imagine it makes the racing any worse. If anything, it can only make the racing better while Goodyear works on an even softer, more aggressive tire. We can only hope. Ooh, yes, there you are. The Groovy Gauge, presented by Electric E-Bikes. Head to electricebikes.com to find a ride that suits you. Like I said, I thought this race was more compelling than last year, and I was at last year's race. I had a beautiful seat up high in turns 1 and 2, overlooking the entire facility. I could pick out any and every battle I wanted to. I wasn't stuck with what Fox was showing me. I had a much better perspective last year than I did this year, and I thought this year's race was more entertaining. Maybe I'm the only one. I know last year it was fun to see Larson work his way through the field, but he was the only driver making moves 1 year ago. Tonight, a lot of drivers were making moves. Tempers flaring. Didn't have any of that last year. Overall, I will give this event, this year, I will go, usually the number just pops into my head and I'm like, I'll just say it. This time around, I'm really having to think critically. The option tire was certainly a disappointment. One guy led basically every single lap, but multiple grooves, some passing, some strategy element with the different tire compounds, not as much as we were hoping. Yeah, overall it was a disappointment, so I will go 45%, a little below average for sure. The punch, the fight, aside, that would put this over 50% because I just love madness. But if I take that out for the most part, I'll go I will go 45% for the All-Star race, which by All-Star race standards go back to the days at Charlotte or even that one cursed year at Bristol. 45% is still pretty good. The Texas All-Star, like the All-Star race doesn't exactly have a great reputation. So 45%, shoot, that's actually a pretty good score, I think. 45 for me. I don't know, maybe that's harsh. Shoot, this is a tough one to gauge. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that number down in the comment section below. I wasn't there this year, and I know the weather was atrocious earlier in the weekend, so it's hard for me to judge, but did this event have anywhere near the same hype or atmosphere as last year's? It's hard for me to say. Again, the horrible weather hurt the truck race yesterday and then this morning, so I'll try to ignore that element. The crowd was still beautiful tonight. Stands looked packed for the main event, which is awesome. But going forward, I know North Wilkesboro will host the All-Star race again next year. Need to make sure we're still hyping this up as a big, borderline miraculous event. The miracle that it is. This track was abandoned 2-3 years ago. No hope for its future. To see what it's become is still a miracle. I hope we don't lose sight of that. Let me know what you thought of this year's All-Star race at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Hopefully next year the weather is more so in our favor. But that's going to do it for tonight's video. Boy, covered a lot of topics. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR every single day. We react to news, rumors, races every single week. And a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. More to come during the week, you can count on that. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you again real soon.